For the purpose of your scholarly project, typically institutional review board applications are not necessary because of the new legislation in the common rule. But with that being said, the process of going through IRB is really valuable, not only for the here and now for the experience, but as you move forward, if you plan to publish or work with your evidence-based practice folks, there may be some studies that you will be involved with as a master's prepared nurse. So part of the reason that we're doing this is so that you have some experience to build upon when that presents itself as you move forward. So with the IRB application, there is an application form, and there's also an example for you to read through. So what you're going to do is take the information from your project and you're going to translate that into the IRB format. So this is going to be specific to your project, but you won't have to actually submit the IRB application to the IRB at McKendree University. We will be, as faculty members, we will be reviewing your applications, and this is a learning experience, and this is a new experience. So the guide is very helpful to you. The resource is there. There's some templates for you for doing the informed consent as well as the debrief. So basically you just follow that format. But again, it's good to know why that information is there and what kind of format is generally expected. So with the rubric specific to the IRB simulation project that we're doing right now, again, you use the material, you use what you're doing as your project to insert into the IRB application, as well as the information that you will put into the informed consent and the debrief as well. So we want to start out, we just want to fill out the form. We want to put in the identifying information, the specific title of your project, and again, you're going to be using that title when you do your scholarly project, so you just need to nail down the title for your project. What type of study? It may be a quality improvement study. What type of study are you doing? It may be, typically if it's a quality improvement project, it is exempt. So you would indicate exempt. If it's something that does include human subjects that you will be studying, it may be an expedited or full, but for the purposes of our projects, typically they are all exempt, so to speak. You want to dive into the methodology, describe your project process, and then what type of measures are you going to use. So you want to include specifically what type of metrics you're going to use, and again, this will help you as you're creating your scholarly project logic model as well. What type of population are you using in your project? Typically it is those within the workplace, so you want to be very specific about who your population entails and if there are any protected populations, and usually those are some of those populations that may be young or old are from vulnerable populations. So those are things to consider as well, and this ties back to your city training that you did early on in your master's program. You want to indicate what type of risks are involved, and again, when we're doing quality improvement projects, typically there are not specific risks. Your consent and debrief, you will actually be filling out those forms, and you want to think about how would you get the informed consent and debrief folks if you were actually going through the process of doing a study. So would you send that via email? Would you give paper copies? How would you do that? How would you explain that to those? So you're kind of designing what you would do. So this is not what you will do. This is if it was truly a study that was appropriate for IRB, that you had to have those informed consents and debriefs. How would you actually do that in practice? So we're kind of doing that simulation process, so to speak. So with that, when we have data, we need to indicate how we're going to protect that data, how we're going to store that data. So again, you want to have those details. You want to go into if you were doing a study, would you be asking demographics? Would you be asking how long maybe someone has been a nurse, or would you need to know if it's the individual is a male or female, or would you need to know whether or not what their race may be? Would you need to know that for your results? And in some studies you do, in some studies you don't. So you want to make sure that if you don't really need that information for a particular study, you don't want to ask those questions. And again, if you're using some sort of formal survey tool, you need to get permission from the author of that particular tool, or also if you are devising a tool yourself, you want to run that tool past someone else who is an expert to make sure that you're asking the right types of questions. And again, you want to make sure that you're asking questions in a way that doesn't violate any of the confidentiality, any of the rights of the individuals that you're asking. You don't want to ask specific questions that may be offensive to folks, so to speak. Then going into the consent and the debrief, again, those templates are available to you, and you want to make sure that your application is very clear, concise, easy to follow, and that you're using professional language when you're completing the form. So if you have any questions whatsoever about this process, please do let me know. But again, this is a really good process to start thinking in ways as you're moving forward in your future. You may be involved in applying to IRB for a particular study, and also this has some utility in helping you to start structure your logic model as well. So again, let me know if you have any questions or concerns.